Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode number 322, fellow toolboxers, where we're talking with Michelle Saenz-Rodriguez. I hope I'm pronouncing her last name right. I'll ask her in a second. But Michelle just became secretary of AILA. It's a big, important position. It's not a small feat to get elected to such a big organization like that. But she's also in charge of the conference, the fall conference for AILA, in particular the removal and family track. So we're going to talk about the conference, what's up there, and also about her background, how she got to immigration law, any tips and information about practicing law that she can provide. I want to thank all listeners who's reached out to me since the conference. It was really good seeing you all in Chicago. If you are interested in doing a marriage course, how should I put it? I forgot to mention that I have this course that I always talk about, but for those interested in learning about marriage immigration, we do have a course as well. I can help you with that. Reach out to me. And also thanks to our sponsor, DocuWise, who's always been so helpful for the last many years, supporting the podcast and getting the word out about the software that they have. DocuWise.com, help fill out forms and much more. They have different levels of services, different levels of automation, especially with the online DS360, all that kind of stuff, which should be really helpful. But having said all that, let's jump in and start talking. How are you doing, Michelle?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Wonderful. And so it is Saenz, is that?
That's
Yeah.
perfect. Signs.
It was
Like
a
a stop
Dodger
sign.
for Olmedo Saenz. That should be easy enough. Yeah. Saenz is both your last names are pretty popular Spanish last names, so I should know that, especially in Los Angeles. Well, good. Thank you for coming on. Why don't you tell us about yourself, how you got into immigration law?
Okay, so I am originally from the very border of South Texas. I was born and raised in the Rio Grande Valley, about 7 miles from the Mexican border. And actually, I started at the Attorney General's honor program, and I was a law clerk for EOIR. That was my first job out of law school. And so I've actually been in immigration since the very, very beginning. This is my 33rd year of practice, immigration law. I've been around a long time.
Wow, 33 years. You've seen a lot. Now I'm like 15 years into it. I'm like, am I going to be doing this for another 15 years? I'm really excited about it. At the same time, that's like a lot of years, but time flies. So
Time flies really quickly. I still call Ira the new law. So
so
waiting for change. That's how long I've been waiting.
what kind of cases you handle at your firm right now? Your full service, or you have any specific areas?
Primarily family-based immigration and removal work, but really my heart lies in removal work. That's what I've been doing most of my life in my immigration career.
And generally, how is your firm set up? I went on your website. There was another gentleman. There's a partnership and associates and paralegals.
So my law partner is my life partner. I work with my husband, and so we've had our law firm for 29 years. So we've been in this
amazing.
business. We both do the same type of work, and we it's just the two of us. But we have a pretty big practice between both of us, and we do a lot of very complicated cases. Most of our cases are referral cases, either from criminal attorneys or word of mouth. We don't do very much advertising. We have a pretty full book of business, and we do lots of unique cases.
Yeah, you mentioned you're at the border. There's so many cases right now where they're like disputing whether you're born here or not, and that's like a whole thing. Probably you see that a lot popping up recently.
Yes.
Now you also became secretary of AILA. What does that position entail? What are your responsibilities there?
So as the secretary of AILA, I am starting on basically my leadership track. It's a 6-year commitment.
Oh, wow.
So you start as secretary and then you work your way up to each of the leadership positions until in 2030, I'll actually be the president of AILA. So you start at this level and basically you just do every single role. So this year I'll be in charge I'm kind of the backup to the backup to the backup. And so whatever needs to be done is my role in terms of administrative leadership. And so I'm just part of the team at this point. I'm learning the ropes when it comes to leadership, so that by the time it's my turn to lead the organization as the president, I'll be ready.
Mm-hmm. What made you at this point decide? Have you always been active in AILA stuff at the local, chapter, national?
I've been active at different levels in AILA throughout my immigration law career. I guess I started at the local level. I was very active in the Dallas AILA. I was the Texas chapter chair in 2012, and I've stayed local. I've been on the board of governors since 2014, I think. and kind of just stair stepped. But this is something that I wanted to do for many, many years, but I'm also had to balance life as a mom, and a law partner and a small business owner, because it's just George and myself owning the law office. So I just became an empty nester last year. And so it's finally time that I can actually say, okay, it's, I've got the next 6 years to give my time, because it is a very, very big time commitment. So I wanted to make sure that I had the time to give the time that it deserved, to be a leader in AILA, because there's a lot that needs to be done.
I mean, in those positions, you got to travel and go to meetings, got to be on phone calls constantly at the very least, in addition to all the work you got to do, right?
Right. So we have leadership calls every other week for 2 hours, once a week. Plus, anytime something happens, we're in constant contact. You're pretty much on call 24/7. If anything happens politically, you got to be ready to go. If there's something that pops up during in the organization, you got to be ready to go. Obviously, you get asked to speak at a lot of different conferences, not just for AILA, but for other organizations. We're constantly on the ground with other stakeholders to make sure that, we are participating and we're out there, and making sure that AILA is on the ground and being, part of the political landscape.
Yeah. Any particular thing that's on your plate right now that you could talk
about? With the election is coming up, and I think for us, the Biden PIP program is getting off the ground, and we just want to make sure that we're on top of what the requirements are going to be, and that we have some level of participation in what it's going to look like when they roll it out.
Yeah, that's important. I always wonder how much input they get. They talk about stakeholders, the government does, but like, we're the main stakeholder that helps them figure this stuff out. Not even in a pro-immigrant sense, just in a paperwork sense, because the forms sometimes don't make sense, the explanations don't make sense. How involved can AILA get in this kind of stuff? Are they open to it?
Well, actually, they have been very open to it, and it's important that we stay involved, because we get to see what the consequences are that they might not think about, right?
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Like, how are you going to prove the 10 years, and what are the definitions of what is not a threat to national security when we're talking about what are the criminal elements and what's going to qualify and not. So we definitely try and stay in that conversation to make sure that we have good input from all of our members too. It's not just, leadership making that decision. It's reaching out to all the members to say, hey, what would you use as proof of 10 years to be objective evidence of what we're going to use?
And then there's the other program for the employment base, which is as vague as it could get.
As vague as it can be, the D3 waiver, which is also good, because they're asking us, what would it look like for you? What would you want it to look like? And what are some ideas that we could share with the State Department?
Yeah.
And maybe something that will end up, in the Foreign Affairs Manual, or some directive or some guidance that can be used. So that's good for us, because it gives us the ability to also share what would be good for our own members and our clients.
Because with Pro in place right now, because the filing fee just went up, and if you got Pro in place, it's going to cost a lot of money for attorney work, getting 10 years of work together, and then there's a filing fee, and the cost for this process has gotten extraordinary. That's like another main issue. I'm seeing clients just kind of tapping out when it comes to all the costs, aside from the attorney fees alone. I'm not sure what we could do about it. They needed to raise the prices because they couldn't pay for things, but at the very least, hopefully USCIS becomes more efficient in what they do if they're going to raise prices so dramatically on all these things.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping. And I think they are being, at least they're cognizant of trying to be cost effective or cost conscious in terms of efficiency. So I know that we're on them all the time, telling them that our clients are complaining. I know, I know it's something that's at the forefront of our discussion.
Yeah, April 1st hit around. A lot of clients were pushing get it in, and some who are on the fence about filing, we told them, the price is going up dramatically. They're like, okay, let's get it in. That was a really busy time. Now, the fall conference, obviously we have the annual conference, which is the big one. There's a lot of fun. I'm sorry we couldn't meet each other then, but this fall conference became a good excuse to meet each other. what is it all about? What's the difference between a national conference was Chicago and the fall conference, and anything you can tell us about that?
So the fall conference is kind of going to be a condensed version because it's only a 1-day conference. But the good thing is, number one, it's going to be in Dallas. So we're welcoming everyone to Texas. It's going to be a good time of the year. It's not going to be too hot. September 27th. It's 3 tracks. So there is a technology track, there's a business track, and then there's a removal track. Excuse me. So we have a lot to offer. There's going to be a lot going on in depending on, what your practice looks like. There's going to be a lot of different options for you to come in or to bring your staff or to bring your associates to come in and just choose what you want to listen to. But we have a very good program set up. And so hopefully once we see what these initiatives are, we're going to add some more programming dealing with the new stuff.
Yeah, by September, that's when it really should come out. Probably it's going to be the big hub up because it's both employment and family stuff. It's probably going to affect a lot of people. It's going to be a lot of talk about that. When it comes to one question I get asked about is like a lot of younger people want to come and speak at these conferences. How do people get involved to be a speaker?
So we actually have a speaking program that comes into my AILA profile. So that we are looking for diversity in every aspect, in age, in practice, in geographic diversity, everything you can think about. So when somebody comes in and fills out my AILA profile, the more that you can fill out in that profile section, we actually go there and look for different things. And every planner of every conference consciously looks for diversity in every program we can do, in every section. We're trying to add diversity across the board so that we can bring in new talent. And I can tell you that one of my goals in leadership is really to bring up new talent. Because we have to invest in the future of AILA. And that's just, that's part of what we've been doing, is to bring up new speakers, because if you don't get that experience, not just to speak, but you've got to set up speakers for success, right? So you have to have that practice. So you have to bring in experienced speakers with new speakers so that people learn what it's like and how to do it right.
Yeah, as you're speaking, my eyes are going right because I went on the profile. So AILA.org updated the site. It's under the it looks account settings option. Let me go back a little bit. It's under on the side, you had to click the drop down, or there's 3 lines, and there's accounts and membership. And there's a weird thing on my AILA site. It keeps saying my membership expired in 2025. It's like renew now. That's based. So if AILA will listen to this, and then you go to the bottom, there's a demographics part, which I saw partially filled. I never filled out like my year of birth, but now it's interesting because the age is a factor. You want to have like a mix of people.
Yes.
Properly fill it out. There's sexuality, gender, race, and ethnicity. I have that part. I wrote Middle Eastern, and languages, disability. So it's so interesting that these make a difference. So it's definitely to do it, because a lot of people want to speak. That they contact me, they don't know how.
Right.
It's good to know. So are you speaking on any of the panels yourself, or are you just helping organize that track?
In this particular conference, I wanted to let other people speak, and I'm going to be very busy organizing. And so we were trying to get more speakers on. Honestly, over the years, I've spoken so many times. I really want to get new speakers to have the ability to speak in these conferences. It's a 1-day conference. So I feel like the more people we can get to come in, new speakers, I'm better off helping in other ways. And so I'd love to see new speakers come on.
Well, I imagine it's like you're putting out fires all day that day when you have these conferences. Is the water there? Is the tea there? There's people complaining.
Exactly.
There's no
I got to take care of our vendors, make sure they come back, and just make sure everything else is in order.
I was going to say, as a vendor list already established, who's going to be vendors of the location this time around?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they take care of all of that.
Wonderful. And wonderful. So I want to get a feel for their practice. You said you do criminalization cases in particular, which I stay away from because that stuff's so complicated. I can't touch it. Is there something on your plate right now that's extra complicated that you can share? I
deal a lot with, in terms of criminalization, I deal with, the categorical approach, the modified categorical approach, things when you're trying to compare state statutes with federal statutes and see kind of if they fit within the classifications and whether it's going to be an aggravated felony or when I started practicing law, and I was the law clerk for 9 immigration judges down in South Texas, there was only 12 crimes that were classified as aggravated felonies in the whole entire world. Now there are literally thousands of crimes that are aggravated felonies. I teach law at SMU Law School here in Dallas. And so when I tell my students how much it's changed, the pendulum has swung over the years of practice. It's so different practicing law, now than it was back in 1991 when I started. And it's just, it is, nobody even knew what an immigration lawyer was back in 1991. And now we're pretty popular. Everybody knows what we do. So, I mean, I love the work, but the cases are very heavy. It's hard work. I do a lot of asylum work, vulnerable populations, just cases that people would never really imagine the stories that people come through when they come to this country. It's just really incredible stuff.
How are the asylum and court backlogs over there? In LA, it's like 7 years for asylum, court, many 5 years backup, same kind of situation there?
Same. I've got cases set for 2029.
You thought planning out the AILA 6-year process was long. This beats that in.
Yeah, we're hoping it's going to get better.
Yeah, a lot of immigration are, most of the bars dealing with that. But how do you plan out a business wise when a case is going to take that long and like people are paying now? Do you do like a flat rate for the whole thing or partial, or is it hourly rate? How do you manage the finances of a backlog like that?
So that is one of the ongoing topics that we talk about. For instance, here in the Texas chapter, we've been talking about different business models. Like, how do you manage a practice like that? Do you do it based on benchmarks, right? So the first couple of master calendar hearings, depending on when you get set for the next case. So we have actually changed the business model that we've been doing kind of based on where we are in the case. Because if I did it on a flat fee based on the amount of time it takes for a case to be heard now, I'd probably be making about $5 an hour. I mean, I have had cases right now that have been pending for 14 years before they actually get heard. And so now at least when I plan out a case, I have to bill for the work that is being done at this moment. So when I sign with a client, I'm saying, okay, we're going to go to court on this day. And then depending on what the work is, we'll sit down after that and we'll decide, okay, the judge says we have to turn in an application on this day. So I'm going to charge you for the amount of time it takes me to prepare this application. And they're going to give us a deadline on when we have to submit our evidence. And so it's done based on the work that we're doing and the time it takes to do the work. So it's not really flat fee. It's kind of a hybrid right now.
So you must love the question people call like, how much is this case? You're like, listen, I need like 20 minutes just to explain this to somebody and wrap their heads around like, what?
Yeah, it's extremely difficult right now. And I think a lot of people shy away from litigation for that exact reason, because it's hard. It's very hard to make money doing the litigation work. But it's very necessary because the work we do, people can't go to court and not be represented.
As a person, I've never been to Texas. I've driven back to Texas when I was in college once through it. It seems like there a lot of people come across the border. They're sent to Florida and New York and stuff, and you hear about the repercussions. Texas has always dealt with this. For some reason, and not sending to Los Angeles. San Diego has been a contingent. On the street, like, is it literally you see migrant? How's actually a person who's living in Dallas? Do you feel the effects of the numbers of people coming in?
So Dallas is about 9 to 10 hours from the actual border.
State, essentially. Yeah.
Texas is huge, right? So Texas is really big, but our immigration courts are really busy. So we have about 13 courts, physical courts. But we also have video judges here. Mm-hmm. So there are 250,000 cases here in Dallas that are pending. So it's a pretty big court. But if you looked at the population, You wouldn't say that we're overburdened by it's definitely, it's not a crisis, nothing like you would imagine, nothing like our governor makes it seem. Yeah. This is a very welcoming city itself. We have a welcoming a belonging program here. It's a very welcoming city for immigrants, and immigrants bring so much to our community here in Dallas. So this is a very good place for immigrants to be. The state has a bad reputation. And certainly we have dealt with very difficult laws, but we have very good advocacy here, and we have a very strong immigration bar all over the state. And we have a huge AILA membership. We have 1,700, almost 1,800 members.
You're the biggest chapter, right?
Yeah, pretty close to the top, next to New York.
Well, how do you manage a chapter that big? Because I was analyzing the Texas chapter, and because it's so spread out. I mean, you could have 3 sub chapters just doing their own thing. Is that how it practically works out?
So we're actually Texas, Oklahoma, and New Mexico all together, and then we're kind of by region. So we have San Antonio, Houston, the Harlingen has a section, El Paso, Oklahoma, and New Mexico, and we get together all the time. So we visit by Zoom, probably once a month, maybe sometimes more than that. And we have a very tight chapter. Everybody knows everybody. We have 2 conferences a year. Once is out of the country. We were in Mexico City in April. And it's a very, very cohesive chapter.
You know, traffic here in LA is so bad. I have to drive an hour to go to our chapter. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. There's too much traffic. So we have to get on planes to see each other. It's not bad. You know, they were talking about the perception of Texas, what's happening in the TV and stuff. We went to the Chicago annual conference, and from what I've seen on TV, I thought it was going to be a dystopian nightmare like Batman's Gotham City or something. It was like such a beautiful, nice place, very beautiful. Like the freeway was. LA looks bad. I was like kind of embarrassed me from LA when I came back to the airport here. Everything's old and broken down. I was like, oh man, Chicago looks wonderful, like compared to LA right now. But it's so it just goes to the fact that you got to travel and see the world for yourself and experience these things. You can't rely on these third parties, like on TV, especially with all the propaganda telling you what's going on.
Yeah, that's the way it is here too.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. So the conference is in September
27th.
27th. Is there like an early bird discount rate you guys have, or?
Yes, I think the end of the early bird registration is going to be. I think it's going to be the end of August.
End of August. Okay, so I'm going to be interviewing Ruby Powers as well. I think she's doing the tech track and management, and I think Vincent Lau. I'm trying to get a hold of him. He's doing the business track. Again, as you said, with the executive orders come through around that time. That's like that's a really good place to go and talk. And it's really good for other people from other chapters to come, not just Texas, because, you know, I met so many people in Chicago and I created so many business relationships, referral relationships. I got so much piece of information. It's so important to go to these things. It's kind of hard. I have 3 little kids, so it's hard for me to travel. But as soon as they get a little bit bigger, especially if they're empty nesters, I'd be at every conference. It's like the best of these conferences. It's like a huge party, essentially.
Yeah, it's a good time of year to be here. There's a lot going on at that time of year, too. It's not so hot. Right now, it's really hot, but it's not going to be so hot in Texas by September. It's a good time.
How bad is it? Vegas hit like a record 120 or something like that, and LA is pretty crowded.
Yeah, we've been in the triple digits all last week, but it's cooled down today because of the hurricane. So
I guess there's always a half cup full. The hurricane helped cool things off. It's not bad.
It did. We're going to be in the high 90s all week, so we're happy.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. It was a real pleasure getting to know you better, and I hope to see you in person.
Thank you for having me. It's good to meet you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.